If you've been here for the last week or so, you know that we've been working through a series on community. And last week, Brandon talked a lot about why community is important and how it's something that we were created to participate in, both in community with God and with each other. And so this week, we're going to look at one of the ways that we can connect more deeply with the people in our community, and that is sharing our joys and sharing our sorrows. And I feel like this is something that we do often, but just kind of on the surface level. We'll ask each other about like the highs and lows of our week, the roses and the thorns. My friends in college, we called it the pals and wows. And we would just do that when we sat around the dinner table. But I also feel like we are called to go deeper with each other, to share the truest parts of our heart, especially as we start to build stronger friendships and connect more deeply with each other. So the main section, the main verses from the Bible that I want to look at tonight is in Romans 12. So if you have Bibles and you want to flip there, we have our Sky Bible, as Brandon likes to call it. But we'll be in Romans chapter 12, verses 10, and then we'll skip to 15. The translation that I really like to read in when I'm not using my physical Bible is called the Passion Translation. So that's what the translation, the verses will be in tonight above on the screen. But Romans 12, 10 and 15 says, "Be devoted to tenderly loving your fellow believers as members of one family. Celebrate with those who celebrate and weep with those who grieve." And so we are more than just a young adult group. We are a family, just like verse 10 says. And we've been growing with each other for the past year, give or take, depending on when you started coming here. And as we've gotten closer over this year, I want to encourage us to start opening up with each other in ways that maybe we haven't had the courage to do so before. So we're going to start with the first part of verse 15 because, to be honest, I think it's the easier part. So how many of you would agree that you find it easier to share the celebratory, the amazing, the fun things that are going on in your life? Yeah, me too. And I'm going to ask you to get really, really honest. How many of you would agree that it can be easier to celebrate with people who are celebrating rather than weeping with those who are grieving? Yeah, me too. Glad we're all on the same page. So things like engagements, weddings, baby announcements, job promotions, long-deserved vacations, they are all situations in which we are filled with joy for other people and for someone else. And in that joy, we look for ways to support our person or our people. We plan baby showers, we give gifts, we ask for pictures from a trip. Galatians 6:10 says, "Take advantage of every opportunity to be a blessing to others, especially to our brothers and sisters in the family of faith." And just like this verse says, we do our best to find ways to bless people in our faith family when we rejoice with them. And when we do that, that creates a deeper bond of friendship and connection. Our hearts are intertwined and they're lifted up, and they are encouraged when we celebrate the victories of the people around us. This is also true when we are the ones sharing really great and wonderful news. When we allow other people to rejoice with us, that brings a deeper sense of community too. It invites everyone to be a part of the blessings that God is pouring out onto his people. Even if you are in a season of struggle and it's difficult to feel happy for other people, if we are experiencing and participating in the happiness of other people, it can be a reminder that God is still good. He's still working. He's still moving in the lives of his people. And the evidence of his goodness in others' lives can be an encouragement that his goodness will be evident in yours as well. So we're not just called to be in community with each other by sharing our celebrations, but also by sharing our sorrows. Some other translations of verse 15 say, "Weep with those who weep, mourn with those who mourn, and if they are sad, share their sorrow." And I think this is something that we can agree that we should be doing, but putting it into practice can be a little bit more difficult. We don't always know how to do this, especially if someone else's deep sorrow is something that we have never experienced, and we don't have a frame of reference for it. But maybe feeling uncertain of what to do is the best way to build community when we are grieving. Simply sitting with someone quietly, writing a card, or even just acknowledging that you don't know what to say. That can be more helpful than having all of the right words. So taking time to walk through sorrow with our community deepens our understanding of what it means to bear one another's burdens, just like Jesus bore ours. And when we choose to share our heart's deepest hurts and wounds with others, it shows that we trust them. Now, of course, you want to share with people who have proven themselves responsible and trustworthy with other information that you have shared. But once you have those people in your life, letting them into your grief creates a community that supports you and supports you in your hardest moments. We need to let others know that they are not alone, but we need to know that too. 2 Corinthians 1:3-4 says, "For he is the Father of tender mercy and the God of endless comfort. He always comes alongside us to comfort us in every suffering so that we can come alongside those who are in any painful trial. We can bring them the same comfort that God has poured out upon us." So sharing our grief opens an opportunity for God to use us as instruments of his healing and his love to others. And it opens our hearts to receive those same things from him through the people around us too. So I would like to share part of my story with you all because it's through this very specific experience that I really saw our core verses in Romans come to life. Almost exactly 4 years ago, the man that I was engaged to ended our relationship and left about 4 months before our wedding. And as you can imagine, it was absolutely devastating. For years after this event, I saw it as a shameful part of my story, a poor reflection on me and on my character. After all, if the man who asked me to marry him decided he didn't want me, then who would? The friends and family in my life at that time did everything they could to support me. I really had an amazing community that carried me through with prayers, cards, and food. But the new friends that I would make in the following years, I didn't share this with them unless I had to. I told myself that no one would understand my grief, and it was just too painful to talk about. Even when I started coming here, I kept this hurt to myself until I made one specific connection. Yes, this part involves Brandon, and don't worry, I have his permission to share it. On one of our first days hanging out together, very randomly, it seemed, Brandon shared how he had also been engaged and how his former fiancée had ended it very abruptly as well. And I cried, no surprise, because not once had I met anyone else who had been through what I had been through, and neither had Brandon. In his bravery of sharing his grief, there was connection. There was healing, there was hope, and there was community. And of course, you all know how that story ends. And getting to celebrate this redemption story with all of you guys has been very healing for me and for Brandon as well. And so the way that you all have rejoiced with us as we have been rejoicing truly has been one of the most amazing shows of community that I have ever seen. So thank you. And I want to end with these verses from Hebrews. Discover creative ways to encourage others and to motivate them towards acts of compassion, doing beautiful works as expressions of love. This is not the time to pull away and neglect meeting together, as some have formed the habit of doing. In fact, we should come together even more frequently, eager to encourage and urge each other onward as we anticipate that day dawning. That's from Hebrews 10, verses 24 and 25. So we are meant to encourage each other in joy and in sorrow. We are meant to find ways to love each other in joy and in sorrow. But we can't do that if we don't share our joys and our sorrows. In her book, The Broken Way, Ann Voskamp writes, "The measure of your willingness to be given is the measure of your capacity for communion." I highly recommend any of her books, by the way. They're very good. But we can't grow closer in community if we pull away from one another. If we aren't willing to open up and give of ourselves, then we lose the capacity to connect with other people. The times when it is hard, when it's challenging, when we don't want to let others in, those are the times we need to lean into our community the most and let people in on our life events. So, I have a challenge for everybody. Who is somebody here, or maybe in your life, who you can share a wonderful joy or a deep sorrow with? Who can you go into deeper community with? Maybe it's just one person, maybe it's your whole small group, but let's take one step towards deeper, stronger community by choosing to bring someone else into our journey of life. Because you never know who's going to look at you with full understanding and say, "Me too."